Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Fain, CEO of Center for Mentoring Excellence, and here in my capacity as an ambassador to the board of the International Mentoring Association. I'm here for another expert interview with somebody who is a leader in the field of mentoring. And I am so excited today to welcome Dr. Ntombizandile Gcelu. I hope I said it right. Who goes by
Yes, you did. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, so excited to have Zandi here. I want to tell you a little bit about her, and then we have, a series of questions. We'll see where the conversation goes. I think you'll find that we're going to have just a delightful, unique conversation. So Dr. Gcelu is a senior lecturer who's been in higher education for less than 5 years, but has had a rich career in working in primary schools in the rural areas. She has working in higher education in School of Education Studies. And her academic career she says it started under the tree as a primary leader, teaching combined classes in the rural quintile of the first school where there was no infrastructure. And her teaching philosophy is grounded in something that we'll talk about, collaboration and Ubuntu. Her research is focused on stakeholder collaboration and stakeholder collaboration and Ubuntu, the dynamics of collaboration and collaborative initiatives for sustainable leadership in rural schools. She's currently a mentee in the program for the World Education Research Association mentoring program. So we'll talk a little bit about that. She is a grant holder in a project where there's collaboration of women academics who were less than 5 years in possession of a PhD degree. And she supervised and mentored numerous students, both undergrad and postgraduate students. She's presented in several conferences and webinars. She's assessed numerous dissertations and theses for different institutions in South Africa, published articles and co-authored a book chapter in accredited journals. And she says this, which I love. I think it's a great way to start our conversation. She says, my academic life is influenced by my roots and cultural background, where we grew up sharing the little we have with other people. Respect and kindness were fundamental aspects in her family. Zandi, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So excited to have you. Well, let's start from the beginning. And if you could share with us, what is Ubuntu?
Ubuntu, I would say Ubuntu is seeing myself in you. So seeing myself in another person. And my understanding, when I see myself in another person, I'll do exactly what I want that person or other people to do to myself. So it's being compassionate about people. It's being loving. It's being it's kindness. It's respect, which is something that was instilled in me by my grandparents. That that's why I'm so proud about Ubuntu. It's because I got this one from my grandparents who were never been to school, for that matter.
I've heard it translated before as I am because we are. Do you think that's a fair translation?
But I am because we are. It also it is a some kind of a, what can I call it? It's trying to show that you can't be yourself without other people. It shows that even if you want to rise, it gives you that thing to say, you are not going to rise alone. Rise with other people so that you can leave legacy, and also so that whatever you are doing is sustainable. To me, that's what it says.
I love that. This idea of the connectedness is so, so powerful. So I'm so interested in your journey. You mentioned in your bio, and we talked a little bit before we started recording, about your journey from being a primary school teacher under the tree to higher education. And I'd love to hear just a little bit about how you got from there to here.
became a primary teacher in deep rural areas. And maybe to tell you the truth, when I started being a teacher in the first day, I was not sure I was going to stay in that place. Maybe let me give you a brief background that at least in my home, my mom and my father, they were both nurses. So I was never really exposed to poverty as I was exposed when I went to start being a teacher in those rural areas. When I first came there, I was told the school was supposed to be on those grounds, but you will go to that big roundabout. When I go there, I was only to find it was somebody's kraal, the headman's kraal, but the principal was there, and she introduced me to another teacher. There were only two, and told me, your class is gonna be there, pointing under a tree that was a bit far from this roundabout. And I was overwhelmed and shocked because my expertise as somebody who was going to start being a teacher, I was looking at myself being in one of the schools that I've seen before. Some schools, you walk down the veranda, you go up the stairs to a classroom. But in my situation, it was going to be under a tree. That's how it started. Hence, wow. I'm saying I didn't even know that that was how my academic life was starting. I was frustrated. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. Even the kids there, they were in clothes, but they were not. You know, when you look at them and you see that of course they are in school, but nobody would guess that this is a school when looking at the kids and looking at where they are under the tree. So that's how I started being there. Then time goes on. I started developing myself through distance learning, of course, because there was not even a transport of going from work to my place every day. I have to stay there. So I have to find something to do with myself, especially after the school, the primary school would end at 1:30. It means I have a lot of hours before the sunset. So I have to find something and do something. Then I decided to do distance learning. I did my diploma, further diploma in management and leadership. And then I did my honors. And then I did my master's, still as a part-time, my master's. I was, by then, at least we had transport. So I will go from work to university in the days that I'm supposed to attend. Then it started. Then by then, there was light. I could see that I was going somewhere. I didn't know where it was before, but when I graduated my master's, I knew that I have to take this risk and resign as a primary teacher after 21 years. And I resigned. I did my PhD. Immediately when I got the acceptance letter from Walter Sisulu University, I knew that that was it with me. I'm leaving. So I left. I was 45 years old, remember.
Wow. That must have felt like a big leap for you.
Yeah, it was a big relief. I think my son made it possible for me because I've got a son. I've got only one child, my son. he's an old man today. He's 27 years and working already. So he was in Stellenbosch then, and he was like excited being in Stellenbosch and having a mother who's also in another university full time. So he would encourage me to study, and would like call me 12 midnight and say, Mama, ulala kanjani ungena PhD? Which means, Mama, how do you sleep without having your degree, your PhD degree? So we were sort of like both students, exciting to me to be a student with my son. And my son was also excited that the mom was in university. As himself, he was also a full-time student staying in a postgraduate residence in Walter Sulu. That's how it started.
Yeah, what an amazing journey to be able to do together with your son and learn together. Well, it's a great segue to talk about mentoring, because we know mentoring is ultimately a learning relationship, and you really embody this idea of being a lifelong learner. Can you talk a little bit about how you view effective mentoring?
How, starting from when? Because to me, mentoring for me started long ago while I was a primary teacher. Where do I start?
Yeah, well, maybe start with, what is an effective mentoring relationship in your opinion?
In my opinion, an effective mentoring is a mentoring where the two people, the mentor and the mentee, have got a relationship, and that relationship, an understanding between the two people, not only about the core business of maybe mentoring a person towards being a leader, but also you go beyond the core business, because you have to know the person, you have to understand one another, you have to make sure that you make a happy space around the two of you, where the both of you are free to sit down and make sense to one another without fear.
Yeah. How do you do that?
For me, it starts there, even before you start the core business of mentoring. But you have to understand one another. You have to have a relation, even if you are not friends, but there must be a relationship between the two. You must be able to say, no, I will not be able to sit with you today. And the other party must understand that. And that must not be the one-way thing. If the mentee is saying, not today, my mentor, today I have this, I'm not feeling okay emotionally or mentally, you don't jump to the core business and mentor the person while he is emotionally not capable of grasping anything. So hence I'm saying there must be a relationship where you would see that this person does not need this kind of conversation between the two at this moment. Even if I want to do that conversation, it should be in a space where everybody is ready for that.
Yeah. How do you judge that readiness? I mean, I know you need to have this relationship piece, but there has to be this underlying trust between the two. So how do you develop that underlying trust so you can really tell whether there's readiness or not?
You would understand. Let's talk about mentoring the postgraduate students, for example, because that's where my mentoring started in higher education, the postgraduate student. We level the grounds by having the conversations that are not really about mentoring towards the research, but the conversation that let's sit down and have our own agreement. This is how we are going to work, even if we are not going to stick to the document as line by line. We know that we are human beings. We are going to be flexible. Immediately you have that first conversation with the mentee, you begin to understand how you will work with this one. And for a start, you just start the conversation of understanding one another. And then you begin to say, let's draw our timetable. This is how we are going to work. But in drawing the timetable, you also make sure that the person understands that because we're human, there could be some challenges that would make us not to follow the timetable as it is, but you have to win the mentee in terms of being the one who has to knock in your door. You have this open door kind of a relationship that you don't, if I don't respond to emails, my mentee understands that if Dr. Gcelu is not responding to emails, I can still WhatsApp her and try to draw her attention. That's how I work with my mentees.
Mm-hmm. And letting them know that, right? Having the comfort to let them know the ways that they can communicate with you is so huge. Let's talk about your relationship with your mentor currently. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. Maybe let me first say the mentor that I first have was a personal mentor. I allocated myself a mentor, and I am, as I'm a new person in higher education, I have a lot of challenges. So as I looked at my colleagues, and then I found one colleague that I decided to make her my mentor, not knowing that she also want me to, so we had this mentor-mentee kind of relationship. We were not even aware who's mentoring who until I said to her, you are going to mentor me because you are new in the university that we are employed in, but you are not new in higher education. So the difference between the two of us is that I'm new in higher education. It's my first time in higher education. You've got several years in higher education. That was my first starting point. And not only that was my starting point was that we had a relationship. We started being not buddies per se, but she was somebody that I would knock at her door and ask questions when I have challenges, and she would respond. And I decided this is the right person for me to be my personal mentor that I was not allocated in the university. So as the time goes on, our relationship grew. We were working together. We did a lot of things together that are academic related, though we would go out and have our coffee and lunch in restaurants. But that one was not the key part of it. The key part of it was that we found something common between the two of us. For me now to have a mentor by the name of Professor John Madil, I can't pronounce her surname correctly, but a mentor is Prof. Joan from University of Warsaw in Poland. It's because I started by having a mentor in the university, a personal mentor, and we started to build and develop one another, and we wrote a winning proposal for the World Education Research Association, International Research Networks. Then we started being the conveners of working with the wearer. And then it was during this process of these 3 years that I was allocated now a mentor, now that I have a mentor. And to my surprise, our relationship started the way I have at the back of my mind, that we need to sit and have this conversation, that we will understand one another. Exactly that happened with my mentor, the wearer mentor that I was allocated. We said we have a Zoom, and we just spoke about ourselves. For our first meeting was just a meet and greet of who I am and who she is. And then it started like that. As a result, I can even WhatsApp her and say, Prof, this is the situation now. This is what is happening. We have only 4 months in this program, but we have a very good relationship.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. You know, so I explained when I introduced you, and you've already talked about your focus and your research being on Ubuntu and collaboration, and your passion around mentoring. It's not a coincidence that you have those 2 things. I'd love to talk a little bit about the interrelationship between collaboration, Ubuntu, and mentoring. How do you see them all fitting together?
You know what? I think collaboration and Ubuntu, those 2 concepts, they mean Ntombizandile. That's how I live. I'm rooted and on Ubuntu and collaboration. Before I become a mentor, I already knew that for me to grow and develop to be somebody whom people would look at and reach up to me, I have to have Ubuntu. As I've said, it's from my roots, that one, from my grandparents. And then within collaboration, I found that working together is something that it's a rich concept, where you have your kindness, you have your sharing of ideas, you have your respect, you have your agreeing to disagree with whoever that you have a discussion with. And while I have those 2 concepts, and then there's mentoring. When you're mentoring somebody, you are developing and trying to see yourself in that person. So to see myself in another person, it means I have to show respect. I have to be kind. I have to share the idea. I have to take everyone as an asset, so that everyone is open to whatever that I'm trying to impart, whatever kind of knowledge that I'm trying to impart to another person. It helps me to put this garment of collaboration, that we are going to work together. You are an asset, and as a lifelong learner, I am learning from you, and you will learn from me. And in terms of mentoring, collaboration is a strong principle, because if you are mentoring five students, let's say, immediately I open a space where those 5 students will sit and we discuss issues of mentoring or whatever core business. We are opening a space where these 5 people, together with myself, where we can sit and speak and discuss issues freely and become flexible, and in a way they begin to network. I'll make an example. In 2020 we had COVID-19 and we begin to panic. We were not having these using the digital technologies 100%. We were used to face. And there comes COVID. We were indoors. We didn't know what to do. But as the time goes on, we become used to digital technologies. We have to come up with strategies. And in 2021, I happened to have more postgraduate students to mentor. Then I decided to fuse in collaboration and Ubuntu by inviting the one of the other mentees in another campus, but still in UFS, to say, let's do this together. Let's merge, put our students together and mentor them as a team. By then, I didn't know that it was going to work like it is today, but we started, and to our surprise, we opened a space where the PhD student will be the peers to master student and even B.Ed honors sometimes. And there was that networking. And the only thing that we said to them is that, guys, this is a space. You are free to discuss whatever. We are going to mentor you as a group here. We collaborate, we work together, we emphasize respect, we emphasize kindness, we emphasize sharing ideas, we emphasize Ubuntu, and we emphasize taking everyone as an asset, so that everyone here has got this space where is happy to be in it. And we found it was working wonders. Our student would come and present, and while other one is presenting, other students are giving comments, so that student would leave the session with ample comments from the peers, even before they got the feedback from us as their mentors.
It's so great that dynamic of a group, when they show up for one another and they feel invested, not just in their own learning and not just in connecting with you as the mentor, but really in connecting with one another. It's so exciting to see those relationships that develop, and the way that it can just be so generative of a career. That's really terrific. You know, what was coming to my mind as you were talking is I do a lot of thinking about, relating and mentoring across cultures. And there's one cultural continuum, which is about collectivism and individualism, right? So here I am sitting in the US, and we tend to view ourselves as a very individualistic culture, right? Where it's achievement of the individual on our own, right? You get the A, get the PhD, get the doctorate, change the world all by yourself, go do it and be the hero. And right. And then on the other extreme is a collectivistic culture in its most extreme form, right? Which is about everybody rises together and no one individual rises alone. And I'm just thinking about that as somebody who's rooted in individualistic culture, that seems so beautiful to me, and also in some ways so distant from where I live in the culture in which I grew up. And I'm thinking about Ubuntu. And I'm thinking about how Ubuntu really bridges those two extremes, right? Is there any thoughts on that? I mean, to me, when I think about it bridging the extremes, I think about it allowing the individual to succeed because of that connective tissue, right? So I don't know if you see it differently or if this strikes any thoughts in your mind, but that's what was running through my head as you were talking about both the group mentoring and the Ubuntu.
You know, I found it very, in fact, I didn't even know how it would come out, because as I'm speaking to you now, we're thinking about mentoring the secondary school in rural schools students who are still going to come to university. And this combination of having PhDs, masters, and B.Ed honor student in one room gave us an idea that, you know what, the one who is doing B.Ed honors is looking up at the PhD and the master's peers and like, okay, I do want to do my PhD one day, and being in the same room with them and being exposed into having discussions with those people on the higher level with them, they are being motivated and they are being encouraged to also achieve what these higher levels have already achieved. Hence, we were thinking about having those secondary school learners, grade 10, 11, 12. They are 3 years to university. If we create a space where they can be in the same space with the undergraduates already in the university, that would, for them, that would be a motivation to be in higher education. By just a mere creating a space using the digital technologies to say, maybe this day I will have 10 students from rural areas in secondary schools, and I will have another 10 from the university, and have a theme that they will discuss. And that theme would be a theme that suits or fits in the rural areas, so that they can understand that there's nothing wrong about somebody who's coming from those deep rural areas. He can still do it. That's, for me, it's a great motivation for everyone. And you find that even if you somebody who has got this thing of doing things for yourself, you find yourself being able now, learning to share your space, learning to share the knowledge you have, learning to share with other people. You become in a space where you are not happy when you rise alone. You sort of look down and check if those who are behind you are also coming. I think it's a nice atmosphere. I believe.
Yeah. I think it's so fantastic. And the truth is, even, and maybe even especially in the individualistic cultures, it's a fallacy that we rise alone. It never happens that you rise alone. You always rise on the shoulders of people who've come before you or come alongside with you. So that's a fantastic way to end. Zandi, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your time and your wisdom. Thank you for joining me in the hours of the evening after dinner, late, well beyond the professional working hours, with a smile and with enthusiasm and with wisdom. Really appreciate you sharing of your time.
Thank you so much. I'm humbled. I'm humbled to be in this session with you. It's a beautiful session. It's like I would have gone beyond 2 hours.
We could talk all
Beautiful.
day.
Thank
We
you so
really
much.
could talk all day. I think we have the shared passion. Such a joy to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you.